Hey guys, what's up? It's Eric with Advanced Love Automotive. Before I start today's video, I just want to take a minute to say thank you guys for helping me reach my goal of hitting 10,000 subscribers. I really do appreciate everyone watching. I appreciate all the feedback, all the comments, all the good ones, even the bad ones. I'm no stranger to criticism, so whatever you got to say, go ahead and say it. Anyways, guys, thank you. And if you haven't already done so, please make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you get notified whenever I put out a new video. Anyway, we got another case study today. Right behind me, I have this 2013 Nissan Sentra SR. I'm not really sure what SR stands for, but it's got the 1.8 liter 4-cylinder engine in it. And the customer complaint is that when he was trying to drive it to work this morning, the engine was losing power, felt like it was just chugging along. He said that when he would come to a stoplight, the engine felt like it was gonna die, and then eventually it just stalled out. So anyways, we just got it towed in. Let's go ahead and check it out. All right guys, so let's go ahead and verify the complaint and get inside the vehicle. Got the key up here, so we really don't have to do anything with the key. We just have to have it nearby. So we'll go ahead and start this thing up. It's got a little push start button. The engine started right up. Oh, just stalled out. So yeah, it looks like let me try to restart it again. Yep, as soon as I start it up, it just stalls right out. So first things first, let's go ahead and hook up the scan tool, see if we have any codes. All right guys, so we've got the MaxiSys hooked up. Let's go ahead and go into diagnosis. We'll go directly to the engine control module. All right, let's go ahead and read codes. All right, so it looks like we got a couple of mass airflow sensor codes. P0101. Oh, looks like these are actually both the same codes. P0101, mass airflow sensor circuit. I'm pretty familiar with this code. I've seen it on a lot of Nissans, which is pretty typical. Now, there is a technical service bulletin on this particular trouble code, but that bulletin really only pertains to a vehicle that has this code and does not have any drivability issues, which in this case we do have drivability issues. The engine is stalling, so the bulletin really doesn't apply to this because the bulletin is just a reprogram. So I really don't think that's going to help us. Anyways, P0101, I mean, we can get a description on the code if you want. We can actually just go to search right here, and the MaxiSys will scour the internet for us, see if we can get a description for the code. Let's scroll down here. Let's just pick any one of these. Looks like autocodes.com. All right, so we got P0101 mass airflow circuit range performance. Looks like they give you a few possible causes here: faulty mass airflow sensor, intake air leaks, dirty mass airflow sensor, dirty air filter, mass airflow sensor harness is opened or shorted, mass airflow sensor circuit, poor electrical connection. So those are a list of possible causes. Not really sure, but here it does have some tech notes. It says, before replacing the mass airflow sensor, try replacing the air filter and cleaning the airflow sensor with low compress air, or using a mass airflow sensor cleaner. It says reset the code, dry the vehicle. If the code comes back, it may be necessary to replace the mass airflow sensor. So that really doesn't help us. I mean, they do give us some information here about the factory service bulletin. If you look down here, there's the technical service bulletin number. This is the one that I was telling you that really doesn't apply to this, because this bulletin is only if you have this code present and you do not have any drivability issues, which it actually says it right here. If the P0101 code is set and there are no drivability problems. So like I said, we definitely have a drivability problem, so that bulletin does not apply to us. Now we have some more information here. It says when the code is detected, it says a high voltage from the sensor is sent to the ECM under light load driving condition, or a low voltage from the sensor is sent to the ECM. Now coming down here, they give you a description. Sorry about the glare on the screen. It says the mass airflow sensor is placed in the stream of intake air. It measures the intake flow rate by measuring a part of the entire intake flow. It consists of a hot film that is supplied with electrical current from the engine control module. So, I mean, that's pretty basic knowledge. If you understand how a mass airflow sensor works, it's pretty straightforward. I think the first thing I want to do is a real quick visual check. So let's go under the hood. All right, guys. So moving under the hood, doing a quick preliminary visual check. I mean, if you look right here, you'll see the mass airflow sensor. It is connected. Let me try to kind of wiggle it. make sure the connector is secured. Looks like it's secured. You can also inspect the wiring here. And then the next thing you want to do is make sure that this intake boot is not loose. So we'll go ahead and just kind of grab it, move it around. It is connected. It does feel like the air box is a little bit loose, but it's not open, so I really don't see anything obvious as far as something that would be causing the vehicle to stall. So I think probably the next thing we could do is, we could probably look at the mass airflow grams per second, though I don't know if that'll help us much because the vehicle doesn't even run. As soon as it starts, it stalls, so that may or may not help us. The other thing we could try to do is probably just remove the mass airflow sensor. There's 2 screws to hold it on, pretty simple to get out, and we can see if there's any obstruction. I've seen plenty of times where mass airflow sensors get debris stuck in them, and I've seen everything from leaves to bugs. So that's probably another quick check that we can do. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so let's go ahead and remove this mass airflow sensor. I've already got the connector disconnected. Again, there's 2 Phillips head screws that we're gonna go ahead and remove. And just gonna go ahead and use this unnecessarily long screwdriver because it was what was closest to me at the time. So I'm gonna go ahead and loosen these screws. That's 1 screw. It's nice, it's got a little magnetic tip on there, so you can just set that aside. Go ahead and take the other screw out, like so. See if little magnet on the end of it right there. That's convenient. Let's go ahead and pull this thing out. Got the mass airflow sensor right here. Let's go ahead and pull it out. Easy does it. And let's see if we can take a peek inside. Maybe if we see anything obvious obstructing airflow. It's really hard to get a visual on the inside of the sensor because looks like the way the sensor is designed, you really can't see the hot wire. Looks like this one right here is the intake air temperature sensor. Now looking inside of that mass airflow sensor, it's really hard to tell, but I don't see any debris or any obstruction in there. Well, to be honest with you guys, because of the way this mass airflow sensor looks like it's designed, if there was anything stuck in here, it would be hard to tell because you really can't see inside of it. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and stick this back in, and let's go back to the scan tool. Okay, I've got the mass airflow sensor bolted back into place, got the connector reinstalled. Let's go back inside the vehicle. All right guys, so back inside the vehicle, and you know what, I forgot to turn off the ignition before I removed the mass airflow sensor, so I'm pretty sure I probably set another code, probably for the intake air temperature sensor. Let's see. Yep, I set a intake air temperature sensor code. That was my fault. Don't pay attention to that code. That was simply because I disconnected the mass airflow without turning the ignition off. So anyways, let's go ahead and pull up some live data. Just gonna go to all signals. Sorry about the glare on the screen. I'm trying to do my best to keep it out of the way. All right, so looking at this data, let's see if we can find a mass airflow sensor value. Looks like we have the mass airflow voltage. Let's see if we can find a grams per second. It's right here, which actually it's set to pounds, so we can go ahead and switch this over to grams per second. There we go, got it set to grams per second. I'm gonna go ahead and just concentrate on those 2 data PIDs right there, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start the vehicle up. Let's pay attention to that mass airflow sensor. You can see we get up to around 3 grams before it stalls out. I'm gonna try to put my foot on the accelerator to see if I can keep this thing running. All right, so as you can see, I've got my foot on the accelerator. I'm gonna try to hold it steady. We're right at about 3,000 RPM. Looking at the scan tool, we've got about 12 grams per second on the mass airflow sensor. which is around 2.3 volts. Let me try to bring this thing down close to idle. See if I can just get this thing down under 1,000. Just slowly letting off of the accelerator, and it just stalled. So I really couldn't go below 1,000. Let me start this thing back up. Try that one more time. Let's try that one more time. Try to keep it running. Got my foot on the accelerator. We try to keep it at around 1,000 RPM. Sorry about the glare from the sun. I keep apologizing for that. I'm doing the best I can. Don't stall. Come on. Let's try to get you low. I just want to try to get this thing probably as close to idle as possible and compare the mass airflow sensor voltage. So we're probably at around 1,000 right there. Looking at the mass airflow grams per second, looks like we're around 5. We're right at 1,000 RPM. 4.8. So honestly, guys, if you ask me, that actually looks pretty good. At this point, I don't think there's anything wrong with the mass airflow sensor. I think our problem is really more of like an idle problem. Let me get that down a little bit lower. Right there at around 1,000. Once again, I just stalled out. But anyways, guys, if you get what I'm trying to say here, is that if you think about the mass airflow grams per second during idle, this thing, again, it's a 4-cylinder engine, 1.8 liter. I would expect to see somewhere maybe around 2 grams per second during idle, and at 1,000 RPM, which of course it's a little higher than idle because normally idle's around 650 RPM, but at 1,000 RPM, I mean, we're seeing around 4 grams per second, which isn't really way out of range. I mean, that's probably normal. So to be honest with you, that's the reason I'm kind of moving away from it being a mass airflow sensor problem and it being more like a issue with the throttle body. And it's possible that maybe the throttle body is just dirty and it's not allowing the minimum amount of airflow that's needed to keep the engine running. So I mean, there's probably a couple things we can look at. We could probably go back and see if we can pull up some data PIDs on the throttle body. So let's see what we got here. Let me try to move this out of the way of the sun, put it on the seat over here. Maybe you guys can see it a little bit better. There's our TP sensor right there, throttle position sensor 1 and 2. Come on, what is wrong with you? All right, so I've got those throttle position data PIDs highlighted. Let's go ahead and just concentrate on those two. Looking right now, I don't have my foot on the pedal. We're looking at about 0.7 volts on both of them. I'm not sure if that's normal or not, but let's just take that as a reference. I think the next thing we need to do is we need to go back under the hood. We're gonna remove the air intake tube and we're gonna take a look at the throttle body. So we're back under the hood. I've got the air intake boot off, and hopefully I can give you a good visual of this throttle body because it's actually facing toward the firewall. I've got this little flashlight right here. And if you look, see if we can get a good image here. Sorry, the mirror's a little bit dirty. But looking at that throttle plate, I mean, the plate itself actually looks pretty clean. But if you look around the edges, we do have some, looks like carbon buildup. So I think we could probably do a throttle body cleaning. I mean, it won't hurt for us to just use a little bit of cleaner on a rag to wipe that stuff off. So let's go ahead and do that. Just gonna use this shop rag, got some cleaner on it. Gently just open up the throttle body. It's pretty dirty. That's just the bottom side. I'm going to clean the top side. All right, so hopefully you guys can see how much dirt I just cleaned off with the throttle body. Like I said, you just want to be gentle when you're doing this. You don't want to really overextend the throttle body. So let's go ahead and get this thing put back together. All right guys, so now that we have the intake boot reinstalled, let's go ahead and move inside the vehicle, start it up. All right guys, so we are back inside the vehicle. Before we try to start this thing up, we're going to want to do a quick relearn procedure on the closed throttle body. And the way you do that is actually pretty simple on the Nissans. Is with the start switch, you just want to turn it on, let everything power up, count to 2, 1, 2, then we'll go ahead and shut it off, and you count to 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll go ahead and power it back up. Everything powers up, count to 2, 1, 2. Then we'll go ahead and power it back down. We're going to do this a total of 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Go ahead and power it back up one last time. Count to 2, 1, 2. Go ahead and power it back off. Count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we can go ahead and try to start this thing up. Sorry about the noise. Got my guy Chris over here working underneath the vehicle over there, so he's got the impact. So just so you're not confused about any noises. Anyway, the vehicle is running now, as you can see. Idle is a little bit high, but it's actually staying running. Let's see if we can wait for this idle to come down. Again, this thing's running by itself. I don't have my foot on the accelerator pedal. Just give it a minute, see if this thing will come down to idle. Sorry about the glare on the gauge there. Sorry about the impact noise in the background. There he goes again. All right guys, so as you can see, the idle's come down a little bit, but I don't think it's gonna come down all the way until we do a idle relearn. But I definitely think that's a fix. And in case you guys think that I'm lying or anything, I promise you, my foot is not on the accelerator pedal. My foot's right here. It's running by itself. Let's go ahead and move back to the scan tool, see if we can do a idle relearn. Let's go ahead and hit escape. Actually, before I do that, let's go to special functions and let's do a self-learning clearing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shut the vehicle off, and then I'm just gonna turn the ignition on, let everything power up, and we're gonna run the self-learning clear. And what this does is this function allows self-learning control value to be cleared. And essentially what that means is that it's gonna clear all of the saved memory for things like the fuel trim tables, or for the mass airflow sensor, and also for the throttle body. So let's go ahead and hit OK. And then we'll hit start. Completed. So it's cleared now. Now we can go ahead and start this thing back up. Let the idle come down a little bit. All right, that's about as far down as the idle goes. So let's go ahead and move over to the scan tool and this idle air volume learn. Now before we can do this function, we actually have to meet a few different conditions, and one of the most important ones is that the engine coolant temperature has to be up to temperature. So sometimes you got to let this thing reach operating temperature before it'll do the idle air relearn. Let me just attempt to do it real quick for the sake of this video. Hopefully we can get this thing down to idle. You see the engine speed's at around 1,000 RPM. Let's go ahead and hit start. See if it can bring this idle down. It's trying to bring the idle down, but I may have to let this thing warm up a little bit. So while we're waiting for this thing to warm up, I'm going to go ahead and just clear the codes so we can get rid of that check engine light. I know technically you're not supposed to do this while it's running, but I've never really had an issue doing that. So let's see here. Erase codes. That's fine. And we're all set. Let's Let's go ahead and try to do this idle air volume relearn. All right, guys, so now this thing is warmed up to operating temperature. Let's go ahead and try to execute the idle air volume relearn. You can see the idle has actually come down a little bit already, so let's go ahead and hit start. You can see it's bringing down the idle. Kind of finding that sweet spot somewhere between 650 and 700 completed. And we are good to go. Check that out, guys. Vehicle's running smooth. Vehicle's idling solo. I'm going to try to snap the throttle, see if the idle comes down and it doesn't stall. As you can see, we didn't stall, went back down to idle. Do it again. Awesome. All right, guys, so that definitely looks like a fix. All right, guys, a little bit of bonus footage for some satisfaction. Driving this thing around the parking lot here. I'm gonna punch it. Woohoo! All right. All right, guys, so just real quick before I end the video, I just want to throw this in as a reference. So you can see we have our engine is up to temperature and we're at idle. You look down at the scan tool. I just threw up a few data pins so that you guys can use as reference. If you look at the engine speed, the idle right now is at 700 RPM. And you can see the mass airflow voltage, 1.6 volts. And if you look at the mass airflow grams per second, this is what I was talking about earlier. Because this is a 1.8 liter 4-cylinder engine, I was expecting to see somewhere between 2 and 2.5 grams per second on the mass airflow sensor during idle, which is exactly what we're seeing right now. So you guys can use this as a reference point. And then also, if you look at the throttle position, if you recall earlier with the engine off and my foot not on the pedal, we were somewhere around 0.7 volts. And if you look right now, we're at 0.56 volts. So this is during idle. Again, my foot is not on the accelerator pedal, so that's what you should be seeing. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching the video. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it informational. And I hope I was able to explain clearly enough my thought process and how I was able to determine that even though we had a mass airflow sensor code, we didn't have a problem with the mass airflow sensor. We actually had a problem with the throttle body. And to be honest with you, I know a lot of people would have gotten fooled by this. I'm pretty sure if he would have gone to probably any other shop up and down this road, they probably would have ended up putting a mass airflow sensor in there and not fixing the problem. So that's why you guys, especially as technicians, you know, you guys got to think outside of the box. Just because we see a code doesn't mean that that's what's wrong with the vehicle. You got to think about how other components in the system work together and how they can affect each other. So like I said, thank you guys for watching the video. If you enjoyed this case study, please make sure to check my channel out. I have plenty of other case studies there. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.